beauty of working for yourself as a creative entrepreneur is that you get to set your own career goals. And for a lot of us who are photographers and cinematographers, being able to travel for work is definitely at the top of that list. When I started my business in 2013, that was the direction I wanted to go my junior year of high school. And then in 2018, I took my first travel job. And since then, pretty much all of my big work has been travel work. But there are so many minor things that simply aren't broadcasted by the majority of us who travel for work on a regular basis. And so I just want to create a video and put all those things here on the things that I wish I knew when I started traveling for work. Let's go. What's good, everybody? For those of you guys who are new to the channel, my name is Sidney Baker Green. I'm a photographer, cinematographer, and colorist, and I've had the pleasure of traveling a lot of places throughout my career, such as Hawaii. I've had engagement sessions in Canada, and this year alone, I went out to Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Atlanta, as well as actually Florida too. And so many things have changed in the travel landscape in 2021 and going into 2022 that I think this is an amazing video to talk about, because there's so many things I wish I knew that would have made me more profitable money-wise, and then my personal bank of feelings. How am I feeling doing my job? So let's talk about some of the things that I think you guys should know when it comes to traveling as a photographer and cinematographer. The biggest thing is that it is not a vacation. And I know that seems like common sense, but it's not something you know until you actually experience it. Because for the most part, anytime we've traveled as humans generally is for a vacation, which means the simple things of travel actually don't matter until it's for work, right? What do I mean? Well, waking up at 5 a.m. to catch a flight is all fine and good unless you have to continue to work that next day, or you don't have that time to sleep in and recuperate the next day as you would on vacation. And on that note too, of just traveling for a vacation, when you travel for a vacation, you generally have your suitcase and that's about it. But when you're traveling as a photographer, you don't know how much your gear really weighs until you're carrying around a Pelican case and all of your expensive lenses on your back, as well as your laptop, trying to run from the H concourse to the K concourse in O'Hare to catch a 30-minute layover flight. And on top of that, it took you 20 minutes to deplane, so you really only have 10 minutes to catch your flight. So that is what I mean, is that there's so many things that are actually just taxing on the body. If you're a wedding photographer, you know of what's called wedding hangover. So take wedding hangover and then put that into traveling as a photographer and cinematographer. And on that note too, with respect to carrying your gear, this will change varying on where you're going, right? If I'm going to a small airport someplace in Jacksonville, Florida, for example, or Daytona Beach, that's not a long walk from my gate to baggage claim. But in the case of going to someplace like Los Angeles, that time that you're walking, or Dallas-Fort Worth, for example, too, can be so long that that taxes you in and of itself. The next thing I want to talk about is that it's a lot harder to calculate money for travel than you think it would be. And I'm pretty good at budgeting my money, but I always found myself being over budget. Even in 2021, I was over budget a few times on some of my travel expenses simply because the landscape was changing so much, right? In the beginning of the year, flights were super cheap, and now they're far more expensive, which actually makes no sense. But things like that will add up quickly. Rental car costs are far more expensive. How much you're going to eat, being able to stick to that budget definitely can have an impact on how profitable you are. I was surprised just how quickly Uber fees and Uber Eats fees add up. And unless you're staring at an Airbnb where you're able to really cook your food, then you're going to have to eat out a lot. So figuring out a way to price your travel is definitely hard, but on top of that, finding clients who are actually willing to pay for your travel fees is becoming increasingly harder. The next thing that I want to talk about is stress. When you go to a different area that you are not accustomed to every day, you don't know what times that you have to leave to make it someplace on time, right? For example, here in Michigan, if I go to my closest airport, I know I can make it to the airport about 45 minutes to 30 minutes before my flight leaves or starts to board, and I'll be just fine, right? But that's not the case in Los Angeles, because I have to account for traffic, and then I have to account for TSA lines, and so I can't use my regular workflow that I would here someplace else. And so that switch up in and of itself causes some type of psychological stress, and no matter how well you plan, you never know when you're in a different city how traffic is going to be that day. Every time I've went out to California, I have missed my flight. And that's just me personally, it's my style. I always miss my flight in California. Last time we ended up having having to stay an extra day because we missed our flight. And when I made my Los Angeles travel video a few years back on this channel, we actually missed our flight, leaving at a decent time for the airport, but because of traffic, that just didn't work out that day. So those are the little stressors that you're going to encounter during your travel work that you won't counter at home, even if you're just going on vacation because you're used to the workflow. And the last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to travel work, especially if you're on a budget, is that sometimes you will be running yourself short. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I know, for example, if I go out and shoot a wedding, while I do try to get there a day before the wedding to make sure that I'm actually there on the wedding day, most of the times the budget only allows me to leave that next day, and the cheapest flight's generally in the morning. And that also works out with hotel checkout. So if I'm ending my wedding day at 10 p.m. and it takes me an hour to get back to the hotel, that's 11, I still have to eat, pack up my clothes, and then be ready for a flight. Oftentimes I'm not going to bed until 2 a.m. and then I have to be up in 3 hours for that flight, and you can see how it can kind of snowball, and you will be running yourself short. And so that's just the thing that I want to bring out, is that while it's a fun job, and I wouldn't change it for the world, oftentimes we glamorize it and we don't talk about these things. But if you can figure out ways to create a process with your clients, and just you're on top of your finances and you're on top of your timing, like I have learned to be in 2021, and it's still a work in progress for me, then you will have a more pleasurable experience as a travel photographer and cinematographer, because you'll just be on top of those things and you won't find yourself in the hole spending more money than you planned on it, and therefore you have less to eat when you get home because you don't have that money. On the plus side, a lot of it is tax deductible. So there's that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give me a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications if you have not. Be sure to follow me on my social media. The links are in the description down below, as well as the YouTube fam. Their links are also in the description down below. Leave me a comment down below, beautiful people. If you have any questions, comments, or even have a new video idea for me, I would love to hear it. And now more than ever, my beautiful people, if you are ever feeling uninspired, uncreative, or just want to give up on life, remember, every day, airplanes take off against the wind. Keep climbing, stay inspired, and as always, stay fabulous. My name is Sidney, and I'll see you beautiful people next time. Peace out.